Welcome to the Boomer Briefing Podcast, where we help you solve a critical business issue in 20 minutes or less. I'm your host, Jon Hubbard, a shareholder and consultant here at Boomer Consulting. And with me today is Amanda Wilkie. Amanda, thank you for being on this episode of the podcast.
Hey, Jon, always happy to be here with you.
All right. Amanda is one of our technology and process consultants, among other things. And the topic we have to discuss today is how to leverage new technology tools in your firm. Okay. And I think this topic is not so much about specific technologies or specific softwares as it is about the mindsets, the attitude, the process, the best practices around understanding, implementing, and rolling out new technologies in your firm. And Amanda, I know you've been a part of a lot of those projects across your career, and you have a lot of good insights here. So as you think about firms rolling out new technology, what are some problems they're experiencing that you're seeing today?
Yeah. And Jon, yeah, I've got a lot of experience in this area because, after spending, 17 years in the profession, I've gone through a lot of busy seasons, but then I've also gone through what we call an IT project season. So project season is the summer months. And it can be challenging because you do only have the summer months to implement new technology solutions. You don't want to make any changes before, April 15th, but you also want to be very careful about the changes that you make in, the fall busy season. So starting like around the 1st to mid of August and going through like mid October. So, and then after that, you have that end of the year crunch. So your project season, your opportunity to actually implement new technology and getting it up and running, and getting it truly adopted and embraced by the organization is really a short window in the summer. So you really want to make sure that you are focused on doing it correctly, because when it's not done correctly, you end up with things that are halfway implemented. You end up with tools that 12 to 18 months later, the firm is saying, wow, we spent a lot of money on this technology and we're not really seeing the return on that investment. Or, you only have a fraction of the people actually using it, using the new technology. Or you'll have a situation where, one group within the organization adopted it, another group in the organization didn't adopt it. So you end up with multiple technologies that are really doing the same things, or again, technology that you're only using a fraction of its capabilities. So those are some of the challenges that can be the result if you're not really focused on, a successful implementation of new technology.
Yeah. No firm wants to spend time, money, resources on something like that and maybe look back 18 months in and feel like maybe they're worse off or their status quo as they were, or people are more confused or anything like that, right? So as you guide firms through this process, almost talk to me as if I'm a managing partner looking to make a big decision around a technology. What are some key things should I be thinking about in terms of maybe key success criteria on implementing a new technology?
Yeah. Well, Jon, the first thing I would recommend is consider that timing. Like I said, you only have the summer months to really do the implementation. So while the firm and the client service professionals are super busy in January through April, that's when IT really needs to be focused on project planning. So that is a piece of the timing. If you want to select a new application, if you need to do a lot of research and do demos, that's really the best time to do it so that you can make that decision and be ready to go for implementation during that short summer window of project season. So again, I would just focus on timing first. And that's going to help you manage those expectations of, is this something we can realistically do during this year's project season, or do we really need to kick it off, down the road? Jon, we love to use the puppy and the dog analogy here at Boomer. Thinking about your projects, John, you have small projects. Those may be like little Chihuahua projects. You may have a medium-sized project, like a Labrador project, or you may have a great big project, like say you're hosting your practice management solution. That's a Great Dane of a project. That's going to take a lot of resources and a lot of time. Now, your dog walker can walk, 4 or 5 Chihuahuas. They may be loud and obnoxious, but they can walk 4 or 5 Chihuahuas down the street at the same time. But you're not going to be able to walk 4 or 5 Great Danes down the street at the same time. So you have to manage those expectations, and you can do that by making sure that you're planning properly, and you're planning during your IT team is planning during Q1 so that they can execute during Q2. Q2, Q3, and so on. Other things to really keep in mind is making sure that you really think about the requirements of the new technology before starting to do demos of technology solutions. And this is very important because you really want to understand, what are the needs of the firm? What do you want this new solution to do? If you really want it to do the same thing that your current solution does, you just don't like your current solution, then do you really need to make that change? But if you focus on building out those requirements during part of the planning project and before you start doing demos, you can actually evaluate a solution based on the requirements of the firm and not get sold on all the bells and whistles. And, oh, we only need it to do X right now, but we can implement Y and Z down the road. That's where you get in that situation, John, where you implement it and then 18 months later you realize you're only using a fraction of the functionality or fraction of the functionality that you thought you were going to use. So focus on building those requirements before you even start looking at new technology solutions or new technology tools. Couple other things I would recommend is focus on project management, making sure that these things are being done ahead of time, that you have a clear plan for training, you have a clear plan for transitioning from one application to another. You have a clear plan on not just transitioning to the new one, but how do you decommission the old tool that you used. So again, project planning is going to make sure that things go smoother and things get adopted. There's more buy-in during that implementation as well. And then I would recommend 2 more things, John. Always consider your clients. If you're making a change to a technology, you may think, oh, it's not going to necessarily impact a client, or you think, oh, well, it's super, super easy to use. They just click this link and then they'll be able to upload things. You have to consider the impact on the client. So when you're making changes, you're implementing new technology tools, make sure that you consider the communication plan to the client, training for the client, if there's going to be any of that, and support for the client. So as you're planning out your implementation, make sure that you're considering those things. And I'll tell you, this is a really good time to get your marketing team involved, because marketing can help you with the messaging around the change and the new technology to your client. And then last thing, John, I'm very passionate about technology and process. If you're implementing a new technology, make sure that you consider how that's going to change your process. Because a lot of times we take a new technology, a new tool, and we implement it in the firm, and then 12 months later, we're like, well, it doesn't do X, Y, Z like our old solution did. Well, you don't want it to work like your old solution. It is a new solution. But if you take your old process and try to shoehorn it into a new technology tool, then you're really going to be disappointed with how things turn out. You're going to be disappointed with the adoption level. You're going to be disappointed with the return on that investment.
Thank you, Amanda. I love those 5 areas of consider timing, number 2, the requirements, 3, project management, 4, consider clients, and 5, technology and process. Now, I've heard you speak a lot. I've been a part of projects with you. And one thing I know, you put a lot of work into on the front end as well with regards to these projects is around that cross-functional team. So as I look at these kind of 5 key areas, I almost think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I almost think having that strong cross-functional team in place to go through these five kind of focus areas would be great. So I guess 2 questions for you. One, do you agree with that? Two, can you explain to our listeners about that cross-functional team?
Absolutely. And I absolutely agree with that, John. I think that you need that cross-functional team because you're going to get a better understanding of how the new technology is going to impact everyone throughout the firm. So even if it is a tool that you think you're going to use in tax, audit may have some great ideas for how they can actually use it as well. But you need, from an operations standpoint, you need that cross-functional team. You need people from IT. You need people from the service line professional team. You need people from your administrative professional team, and then pull in people like from marketing so that they can all, support these changes throughout the firm, because these changes, these new tools should not be happening in a silo. You don't want people to feel like something is just a surprise to them. So yes, you always need that cross-functional team anytime that you're trying to evaluate a new technology tool, and especially when you're trying to implement a new technology tool.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. So, you work with a lot of firms. You've seen projects probably go south, and you've probably seen projects go really well. Let's talk about the ones that have gone really well. Specifically, what are some of the key benefits you've seen that when firms do focus on these key areas that you've identified? What are some of the positive benefits that they get to experience because of that?
Yeah. So I've touched on a couple of them, and I can't stress enough, John, how important it is to really slow down to go fast. So, you've seen some of the documents that we use to initiate projects within Boomer, things like project filters that really start to outline what is the purpose, what do we think the benefits are going to be, what do we expect the resource allocation to be, the timing, those kind of things. And a lot of times organizations just say, hey, we need a new practice management solution. We saw a new, really cool secure file exchange solution. File exchange solution. Let's look at that and maybe implement that. You really, again, you want to slow down and make sure that you are initiating your projects properly and you're setting it up for success so that you can manage the scope of that project. And that is actually going to help you implement things faster and more completely. So that is very important. And if you do that, then you do actually get things done faster, although it may not seem like it. You're going to get better adoption. So people are going to be excited about it. They're going to be using the new tool. So you're going to get a better ROI on that. Things are going to go smoother, and people are going to overall just be happier with the change, because technology changes so quickly these days. So you really have to think about the impact that it's going to have on your people, and you want them to feel good about the technology. You want them to embrace it. You want them to find new ways to actually leverage it as well. So those are just a few of the benefits of actually, focusing on those 5 areas, bringing that cross-functional team together anytime you're looking at new technology tools.
Yeah. And I was just doing some reading actually today on a concept called the irresistible organization. And one of the pieces of that concept is trust and leadership. And I think you would agree with this, that either successfully running technology projects in your firm or having some failures can really erode or build trust in leadership, right? And so thinking about how what kind of perception is our broader team going to have around leadership's ability to make significant change happen? And if you don't do the right things on the front end that you're identifying, it can actually have a negative effect and erode trust. Have you seen that in firms before, or what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you can even apply that to the perception of the IT team overall. We work with a lot of firms. I've actually worked in firms where, IT wasn't really seen as a strategic asset of the firm. Or, it was just, well, IT is just the break fix people, just when I have something going wrong, not when I really need a new solution, or they're not really known for project management, or, things are kind of haphazard. So that erodes at the trust that the employees, the staff, and firm leadership really have in the technology team. They might trust the technology, but they might not trust the technology team, and that can be detrimental. So yeah, just slow down a little bit so that you can go faster, you can implement these things more successfully, because fast isn't always successful. I should also be clear there. But if you slow down and focus on those 5 areas, you'll have much more success, and that will actually lead to more respect and more trust in your leadership team, but also in your technology team as well.
Great. So as we round out our conversation here, Amanda, I have kind of one big question left for you. If our listeners are sitting here thinking, you know what, this conversation is very timely because we've been thinking about tackling maybe a new software or a new technology project in our firm, what would be your one piece of advice in terms of next steps they should take, or maybe the first step they should take in the process?
Yeah. Again, I would focus on how you actually document and initiate the project from the very beginning. And John, these are things that we help firms with all the time. And not only do we have consultants that focus on process, we have a few people on staff, including myself, that are Lean Six Sigma black belts. But we also have people who specialize in project management. I am PMP, a project management professional certification. So we can help firms with laying down the groundwork for building the requirements, laying down the groundwork for building that technology strategy. So helping you pick which projects you're going to want to tackle first, so that you're not trying to walk 4 Great Danes down the street. So we can help with that. We can help with building the strategy. We can help with the project management. We can help with the process improvement around new technology as well. So I would say, if you don't know where to start with reaching out to Boomer, and let's have a couple of conversations.
That's great. All right. Well, Amanda, as always, it's a pleasure having you on the podcast. I know you're pretty active on LinkedIn and Twitter. So if someone wants to get a hold of you, they can probably reach out one of those avenues, or go to boomer.com and go to your contact page, and they'll be able to find your email address and be able to reach out to you there as well. For our listeners, we release new episodes every Tuesday morning. They vary in topics from leadership, talent, technology, process, and growth. So there's a lot of variety in the conversations we're having. However, one common theme is we believe the topics are critical to your firm's growth and success. So please go ahead and subscribe to the podcast, and thank you for listening. Thanks, Amanda.
Thanks, John.